There was a specific bait that sat on the shelves of every small-town
Looking
tackle
for some
shop in
lures?
America
Yes,
until the
for trout fishing.
mid-1980s.
Try.
It was sold in a plain glass jar featuring a simple paper label.
The traditional
There were
tackle
no
box,
fancy
organized but heavy and
graphics,
complex. The
no
modest glass jar,
scientific
compact.
claims, just a handwritten list of ingredients and a price tag of 75 cents.
What
Guides
a
on the
beauty.
rivers swore by its
Back you
effectiveness.
go.
Dock
Got the live
fishermen
bait here?
purchased it by the
Good.
case. Tournament anglers kept these jars hidden in their boats and lied
Look at the
about
size
what
of
they were
this
using
trout.
when they won.
Wow.
Then, during one summer, it disappeared completely. This did not happen gradually or quietly. Every major retailer pulled it from their inventory within the same 3-month window. The small manufacturers who produced it either went out of business or were bought out by corporations that immediately discontinued the formula. When anglers asked where it went, they were told the same lie at every shop, that nobody wanted it anymore, or that they had better products now with more advanced formulas. But that wasn't the truth. The truth was that this bait worked too well and cost too little. It kept customers from buying the high-margin products that corporate retailers needed to sell. I learned about this from a retired tackle shop owner in a small river town who ran a store for 43 years before a big chain drove him out. He told me he was forced to stop carrying it in the early 80s, even though it was his best-selling product. The distributor called him personally and said if he wanted to keep getting shipments of the popular brand name lures, he had to stop ordering the cheap bait that everyone actually wanted. He fought it for 2 years. Then he gave in because he had no choice. That bait was called rendered fat paste. What made it unstoppable was also what made it unsellable to modern corporations. It was too simple to make, too cheap to produce, and too effective to need replacing. Before we go any further, if you're tired of spending money on bait that doesn't work and lures that sit in your tackle box unused, if you want to get back to real fishing the way it worked before corporations turned it into a profit game, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. Welcome to the channel. This is what we do here every single week. We dig up the fishing knowledge that got buried when the industry decided your wallet was more important than your success. Subscribe and hit that bell so you never miss the techniques they don't want you remembering. Rendered fat paste was made from pure animal fat that had been slowly cooked down until all the water evaporated and only the concentrated lipids remained. The most common version used beef tallow from butcher shops, but some manufacturers made it with pork lard or even duck fat, depending on what was available locally. The fat was mixed with cornmeal and a small amount of cotton fiber to give it body, then packed into jars and sold for less than $1. That's it. 3 ingredients, no preservatives, no artificial scents, no chemical attractants, just fat, meal, and fiber. And it caught more fish per ounce than anything else on the market by a massive margin. Here's the science that explains why this works so extraordinarily well. Animal fat is composed of triglycerides and fatty acid chains that fish have evolved to recognize as high-energy food sources for hundreds of millions of years. When fat dissolves in water, it creates an oil slick on the surface and releases scent molecules that disperse with incredible efficiency. Fish detect these molecules through their olfactory system, which is thousands of times more sensitive than human smell. A single gram of dissolved animal fat can be detected by fish from over 100 yards away, in still water and even further in moving current. The fatty acid signature tells the fish's brain that there's a concentrated calorie source available, and every fish species is hardwired to prioritize high-fat food because it provides maximum energy for minimum effort. There is another layer to why this works that goes beyond simple attraction. Fat has a specific gravity that makes it suspend in the water column differently than other baits. When you put a ball of fat paste on a hook and cast it out, It doesn't just sink straight to the bottom like dough bait or stay floating like bread. It descends slowly while releasing an oil trail the entire way down. Fish at multiple depths encounter that trail and follow it to the source. By the time your bait settles on the bottom, you've created a three-dimensional scent cone that extends from the surface all the way down. Every fish in that cone knows exactly where your hook is. No synthetic attractant can replicate this because synthetic compounds don't have the same density and dispersion properties as natural fat. They're designed to smell strong to humans, not to behave correctly in water. That's why you can spray $100 worth of attractant on your bait and still get fewer bites than someone using a 50-cent ball of fat paste. The chemistry of water doesn't care about marketing claims. It responds to natural compounds that have worked for millions of years. Now, here's where the story gets darker and more deliberate. The major tackle corporations that took over the industry in the 1980s didn't just stop selling fat paste because it wasn't profitable. They actively worked to make sure nobody else could sell it either. They bought up the small manufacturers and shut them down. They pressured distributors to stop carrying it. They convinced retailers that shelf space was too valuable to waste on low-margin products. And they flooded the market with expensive artificial alternatives that they claimed were superior. Those alternatives cost $3 to $5 per bottle, compared to 75 cents for a jar of fat paste. They lasted 1 or 2 fishing trips instead of an entire season. And they required constant reapplication because the scent dissipated quickly. The corporations created a consumable product model where anglers had to keep buying to keep fishing. Fat paste disrupted that model completely. An angler could buy 1 jar in the spring and fish all summer without needing another jar. That's terrible for business if your business depends on repeat purchases. So they eliminated it and convinced everyone that progress meant spending more money. The retired shop owner I talked to said he watched his customers catch fewer and fewer fish after the fat paste disappeared. They'd come in frustrated asking what changed. He'd sell them the expensive attractants because that's all he had. They would try them, have mediocre results, and blame themselves for not using the products correctly. Nobody questioned whether the products themselves were inferior. They'd been trained to believe that newer meant better, and expensive meant effective. That's how the industry captured an entire generation of anglers and made them forget what actually worked. Now, I'm going to show you exactly how to make rendered fat paste at home using the same formula that disappeared from stores. Pay very close attention because this knowledge is becoming rare and the people who still remember it are disappearing. First, you need pure animal fat. The best source is a local butcher shop. Ask for beef fat trimmings or pork fat scraps. Most butchers will give it to you for free or charge less than $1 per pound because it's a waste product for them. You want white solid fat, not the pink meat scraps. Take the fat home and cut it into small chunks about the size of dice. Put the chunks in a heavy pot or slow cooker on the lowest heat setting. You're not trying to cook it. You're trying to melt it slowly so the pure fat separates from any connective tissue or moisture. This process is called rendering, and it takes about 3 to 4 hours. Do not rush it. Do not turn up the heat. Low and slow is the only way to do this correctly. As the fat melts, you'll see clear liquid collecting at the bottom and small brown bits floating on top. Those brown bits are impurities and tissue that didn't melt. After 3 or 4 hours, carefully pour the liquid fat through a strainer lined with cheesecloth into a glass jar. The liquid will be golden yellow and completely clear. Let it cool at room temperature, and it will solidify into pure white fat. This is rendered tallow or lard, depending on whether you use beef or pork. 1 pound of raw fat will give you about 12 ounces of rendered fat. And 12 ounces is enough to make bait for an entire year of regular fishing. Now, for the paste formula that actually goes on your hook, take 3 tablespoons of your rendered fat and put it in a bowl. If the fat is solid, warm it slightly until it's soft, like butter, but not liquid. Add 4 tablespoons of fine yellow cornmeal. This is your binder that gives the paste structure. Add 1 tablespoon of cotton fiber. You can get this by pulling apart cotton balls until you have loose, fluffy fibers. The cotton creates a matrix that holds everything together underwater. Mix everything with your hands until it forms a paste that's firm enough to mold but soft enough to compress. If it's too crumbly, add a tiny bit more fat. If it's too greasy, add more cornmeal. When you can roll a ball the size of a walnut and it holds its shape without falling apart or leaving your hands covered in grease, you have the consistency exactly right. Store this paste in a sealed jar in a cool place. It will last for weeks without refrigeration because rendered fat is naturally stable. Some old-timers added a pinch of salt as a preservative, but it's not necessary if you're using the paste within a month. Now, here's the application technique that maximizes effectiveness. When you arrive at your fishing spot, take 2 balls of paste about the size of grapes and toss them into the water where you plan to fish. These are your chum balls. They'll slowly dissolve and create an oil slick on the surface while releasing fatty acids throughout the water column. The oil slick is visible. You can actually see it spreading across the surface like a thin rainbow film. That visual marker shows you exactly where your scent zone is active. Within 10 to 15 minutes, fish will start moving into that zone. You won't see them, but they're there, following the scent trail to the source. Now, take a fresh ball of paste and mold it onto your hook. Push the hook completely through the center so the point is buried inside. The paste should completely conceal the hook. Cast it directly into the center of your chum zone, where the oil slick is thickest. Let it sink naturally. Don't add weight unless you're fishing in current. The slow descent is part of what makes this work. As the bait sinks, it releases a continuous oil trail that fish can see and smell. When it reaches the bottom, it sits there, pumping out scent for hours. You don't need to check it constantly. You don't need to recast every 20 minutes. Just set your rod and wait. The fat paste does all the work. You'll know when a fish takes it because the bite is usually aggressive. Fish don't nibble at fat paste. They commit fully because their instinct tells them this is exactly what they should be eating. Channel catfish are absolutely unstoppable when it comes to fat paste. They respond more strongly to animal fat than any other species. A big channel cat will engulf fat paste bait so completely that the hook sets itself. Largemouth bass hit it hard in warm water because the high fat content triggers their feeding response. Carp become almost tame when fat paste is in the water. They'll feed on it repeatedly in the same spot for hours. Bluegill and sunfish swarm it instantly because the small particles that break off are the perfect size for their mouths. Crappie respond best in cooler water when other baits stop working because fat releases scent even at low temperatures. Walleye and pike track the oil trail through murky water where they can't see anything else. This isn't bait for one species. This is universal attraction that works on everything. The old-timers used to say that if you can't catch it on fat paste, it's not in the water. And they were right. Now, let me tell you what happens when you actually use this compared to modern baits. You'll be fishing next to someone using $15 scented plastic baits and $20 bottles of spray attractant. They'll cast and reel constantly trying to trigger reaction strikes. They'll catch maybe 1 or 2 fish in a full day. You'll cast once per hour and sit still. Your rod will bend 4, 5, 6 times, while theirs stays motionless. At the end of the day, your stringer will be full, and theirs will be empty. They'll ask what you're using, and you'll tell them truthfully, fat paste. They won't believe you. They'll think you're lying, or that there's some secret ingredient you're not mentioning, because they've been conditioned to believe that effective bait has to be complicated and expensive. They cannot accept that something this simple outperforms everything they spent money on. That's the programming the industry installed. You can't blame them for it, but you can fish with knowledge instead of marketing and bring home the results they're missing. Here are the advanced variations that take this formula even further. If you add 1 teaspoon of anise oil to the paste mixture, you create a compound scent that travels even further in the water. Anise enhances fatty acid dispersion and adds a sweet component that certain species respond to strongly. For cold water fishing below 50 degrees, increase the cotton fiber slightly and add a few drops of cod liver oil. The omega-3 fatty acids in cod liver oil are extremely effective in cold conditions when other scents become inactive. If you're targeting trophy catfish specifically, mix in small chunks of raw chicken liver before molding the paste onto the hook. The combination of fresh blood and concentrated fat creates an irresistible scent bomb. And here's a technique that almost nobody knows about. If you render your fat with bacon scraps included, the smoke flavor from the cured pork adds another layer of attraction that works exceptionally well on carp and catfish. The process is exactly the same, but the results are even stronger. Timing matters significantly with fat paste, just like with any natural bait. Early morning and late evening are the prime windows, because fish are actively hunting and their olfactory sensitivity is highest. Avoid bright midday conditions in summer, because fish retreat to deeper, cooler water and become less responsive to scent. Overcast days are perfect all day long because reduced light keeps fish in feeding mode from dawn until dark. And here's the moon phase secret that the old guides all knew. The week surrounding a new moon is the most productive time for fat paste, because fish compensate for reduced visibility by relying more heavily on their sense of smell. Full moon weeks are the worst because fish feed visually at night and are less hungry during daylight hours. Now, think about what you've learned here and what it means for how you fish going forward. For 40 years, you've been told that old methods were primitive and ineffective. You've been sold products engineered to create dependency rather than results. You've spent money on attractants that were designed to run out quickly, so you buy more instead of catching more. The formula I just gave you costs less than $3 to make and will last you an entire season of fishing. It will outperform any commercial bait by a margin so wide it seems impossible until you see it yourself. That should make you question everything the industry has told you about what you need to be successful. Because if they lied about this, they lied about almost everything else too. The rods, the reels, the lures, the electronics, most of it is designed to extract money from you, not to help you catch fish. The knowledge that actually helps you catch fish was free, and it got buried because free knowledge doesn't generate quarterly profits. That's why I put together everything the old-timers knew before it disappears completely. Every technique the industry doesn't want you using, every bait formula that costs pennies, every location, strategy, and timing secret. All of it in one comprehensive resource. No fluff, no filler, just the knowledge that transforms your results immediately. It's in the first link in the description. Get it before your next fishing trip, because once you understand how much has been hidden from you, you'll never trust tackle shop recommendations again. If this opened your eyes to what's been taken from you, subscribe right now and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what else I'm going to reveal. Leave a comment telling me if you ever heard about rendered fat paste before today, or if your grandfather mentioned anything about the bait that disappeared. This knowledge belongs to the anglers who just want to catch fish without being exploited at every turn. No corporation has the right to eliminate what worked perfectly just so they could sell you expensive replacements. While they're selling $30 attractants that last one weekend, we'll be fishing with bait that costs $3 and lasts all season. Tight lines, respect the water, and fish the way your grandfather knew it should be. If this story changed the way you look at the gear in your tackle box and the secrets of the water, please subscribe to our channel and like this video. We are dedicated to uncovering the history and the techniques that they have tried so hard to bury. Let's reclaim the future of fishing together. The next treasure of forgotten knowledge will be revealed very soon.